What comes to your mind when you hear about Romania? What are your associations? A lot of people associate Romania with fast internet speed, vampires, Transylvania, Vlad the Impaler, and so on. For people who are interested in true crime cases, this country might be associated with the Caracal case that shocked the entire Romania and led to numerous clashes between the public and authority representatives.
Hello everyone and welcome back into the room where even walls have ears. Thank you very much for clicking on this video, and I hope you will enjoy and like this video as well. Today's video is about another serial killer, but this time from Europe. This story starts with a 15-year-old girl named Alexandra Maceșanu from Dobroslaveni city in Romania. July 24th, 2019 was a normal day for her. Even though she used to live in Dobroslaveni city and she was from that city, she used to attend school in the nearby city named Caracal. Schools in Romania were providing some public transportation and shuttle services for school children for picking them up, but after a while the government abolished this opportunity, so school children and students had to use their own transportation means. I want you to bear this fact in mind because this is gonna be a very crucial fact. Alexandra was a very hardworking student. For making herself sure that she understood all the materials, she used to stay in school till late hours. She was a kind of a kid that every parent used as an example to their offspring. In one word, she was an astute kid, loved and praised by her parents, teachers, and school authorities.
Later that day, on the 24th of July, Alexandra didn't return home. Of course, her parents were terrified since she was a perfect child and would never be absent for such a long time without notifying her parents. Before going to school, she decided to meet her friend. Unfortunately, there is too little public transportation in Romania, and this problem is especially prevalent in rural areas, so the only possible option for her was hitchhiking. Bad for her, an older gentleman, well, he seemed like a gentleman to her at that time, pulled over and offered her a ride. That gentleman was Gheorghe Dinca. Alexandra talked about the topic of hitchhiking with her parents. They warned her that if she had to use hitchhiking, it would be better to sit in the car of an older man. Alexandra was happy since he was not a young man who could abuse her. Little did she know that this so-called gentleman would become her executioner. She sat in the back seat and Gheorghe started driving. At first, everything was casual. He was asking unharmful questions such as, how is your school life? Why are you heading to the city? How old are you? And so on.
Alexandra had a plan to meet her friend, but Gheorghe's plans were totally different. That morning, he decided to kidnap any woman, and unfortunately, that woman happened to be Alexandra. Even though Alexandra was a 15-year-old minor, it didn't stop Gheorghe and didn't affect his decision even slightly.
Suddenly, he pulled over his car with Alexandra in it. He slipped back and sat next to Alexandra. He wanted to have oral sex with her. When she refused, he offered her money, but this offer was declined too. Gheorghe was too demanding, and Alexandra realized the seriousness of the situation. Then she started screaming and trying to get out of the car, but the doors were locked. He grabbed her and started slapping her in the face. When the power left the girl's body, he tied her hands with his pants belt and covered her eyes and mouth with tape.
Gheorghe brought a totally demobilized girl to his house. Near the gates in his property, he was met by two of his neighbors. Even though Gheorghe was anxious and nervous because there was a tied girl in his car, he somehow managed to conversate with them.
Unfortunately, neighbors didn't notice anything suspicious and Gheorghe continued his black deeds. He dragged the poor girl into the ground floor bedroom and tied her limbs. After that, he left and returned by night. The nightmare started. He started raping and sexually assaulting the 15-year-old Alexandra. After hours of sexual assault, he just fell asleep next to her. The next morning, Alexandra begged him to release her. She tried to reason with him, saying that she was feeling sick and she needed to intake some vital medication that she had at home. Of course, Gheorghe refused to release her and told her that he would call her parents and assure them that she was fine.
The sexual assault continued day by day, causing Alexandria awful pain every single time. One day after another assault, he just went to the city and proceeded with his errands. He procured a cheap phone and called Alexandria's mother. He said that he was a new son-in-law of hers, and that he and Alexandria were happy in the marriage.
One day, Alexandra got lucky enough. She was able to untie herself, and after a while, she managed to remove tapes from her mouth and eyes so she could finally see. She found a phone and called the emergency line in Romania 112. Alexandra told the dispatcher that she was kidnapped and being raped day by day. She was asking for help. However, the only reaction of the dispatcher was disbelief. The dispatcher thought that it was a prank and didn't believe Alexandra's pleading. Let's hear her call.
Bună ziua! Vreau și în legătură cu poliția.
Da. Ce s-a întâmplat?
Doamnă,
nu văd nimic.
Sunt domnișoara, am 15 ani și ieri am fost sechestrată de către un domn.
Cum te cheamă?
Mă cheamă Alexandra, vă rog, veniți repede, nu știu unde sunt.
Cum adică nu știi unde ești? În ce localitate te afli?
În Caracal, m-a dus în Caracal, dar nu știu unde exact.
Păi dă-mi un punct de reper unde te afli în Caracal, cum crezi că te găsim? Alo?
Da, stați, nu plecați, vă rog.
Ai fost violată?
Da, am fost violată.
Da, rămâi la telefon, dar încearcă să dai un punct de reper ca să știm exact ce...
A venit, veniți repede, vă rog.
112, ce urgență aveți?
Soția sunt.
Unde ești în Caracal?
Nu, am trecut, când am văzut prima dată, m-a legat la ochi, eram pe lângă dig. Pe domnul îl cheamă Popescu Lucian Gabriel.
Lângă dig, Popescu Lucian. Păi și acum pe unde ești? Te poți uita?
Nu pot, sunt închisă într-o cameră, văd decât o poartă.
Ia, uite-te pe... Și dar de unde îl cunosc tu pe el? Ia spune.
Deci, să vă spun, ieri am ieșit la ocazie ca să mă duc până în oraș. Și dumnealui m-a luat la ocazie, a închis mașina și m-a închis acolo. După aia a zis să mă ducă la el.
Te-a luat la ocazie? Numărul de la mașină?
Da.
Mai ții minte ceva din numărul de la mașină?
Nu.
Ce mașină, ce culoare, măcar ce mari?
Mașina era gri și avea boturile torțite.
Cu bot turtit?
Da.
Atât ai reținut tu. Și acum
Da.
ești închisă, ai trecut pe lângă dig?
Da, atunci m-am uitat prima dată, dar acum nu știu, cred că sunt în bol sau ceva, nu știu.
Bun, ai telefonul la tine, da?
Da, dar e la el. Eu acum sunt după alt număr.
Nu contează. De unde ai tu numărul ăsta?
Care număr?
Ăsta de pe care mă sun, de unde ai telefonul?
Telefonul lui, l-am găsit aici.
Telefonul lui?
Da.
Este telefonul lui, da? Bun.
Da, doamne, vă rog, trimiteți
Hai, gata,
cineva că mi-e
stai
frică.
puțin, secret, am înțeles. Stai puțin la telefon dacă tot poți.
Alo? A
Poliția vor... Pe lângă dig, de ieri e răpită. Ăsta e telefonul lui.
Veniți cât mai repede.
Unde să venim, domnișoare? Ia spuneți-ne.
Poftim?
Unde?
Nu știu exact, am trecut pe lângă dig, dar acum cred că sunt în bol, că altundeva nu putea să...
Unde sunteți?
În bol. Cred
În
că
bol?
Da, uite.
A, județul Olt?
Stați, am găsit o adresă.
Ia
BLD, Antonius Caracal, numărul 9, de
acolo
1 de
rămâneți acolo, Antonius Caracal, numărul 9, da?
Mi-e frică.
Continuați adresa asta, părea că e
Vă rog,
bloc.
veniți repede că mi-e frică.
Ce bloc este acolo? Ați spus că e un bloc
Nu
ceva?
este bloc, nu este
Da.
bloc, este o casă, este o
casă. Bun, rămâneți acolo să vină un echipaj de poliție, bine?
Veniți repede că mi-e frică
Da,
de
bine,
m-a
bine.
făcut.
Bine, rămâneți acolo.
112, ce urgență aveți?
Doamna, trimis pe cineva, că cred că se întoarce și mi-e frică că mă bate.
Da, ai vorbit cu poliția, da?
Da, cu dumneavoastră. Da.
Ce ți-a zis poliția?
Mi-a zis că o să-ți trimite un echipaj, dar
Alo.
vreau mai repede și...
Poliția
Da,
a revenit fapt.
Da, da. Spuneți, doamne.
domnule,
Da.
vă rog, ați trimis pe cineva aici?
Am trimis, rămâneți acolo, că în 2 minute n-are cum să zboară, măi, domnișoară. Stați acolo, da? Vor veni echipajul.
Mi-e frică.
Păi de cine vă este frică? Alo, de cine vă este frică?
De el m-a bătut.
De el, cine este persoana?
Îl cheamă Lucian, Popescu Lucian, Gabriel.
Popescu Lucian. Și unde stă ăsta acolo?
Am zis că Bold, Antonius Caracal, numărul 9.
Acolo la numărul 9 stă Popescu ăsta Lucian?
Nu știu, am găsit doar o carte de vizită și mă gândeam că poate e a lui.
Păi cartea de vizită e a lui?
Nu știu.
A, nu știu nici asta. Bine, așteptați acum. Așteptați acolo, va veni acum echipajul în 2-3 minute, așteptați.
Vă rog,
Da?
stați cu mine la telefon, că mi este frică.
Nu pot să stau în telefon, domnișoară, că avem și alte apeluri. Rămâneți acolo, vine echipajul de poliție, negreșit va veni, da? 2-3 minute, ce naiba, da?
Bine.
Stați liniștită, calmați-mă un pic, da?
Mi-e frică.
Încercați să vă calmați, păi... Da, calmați-vă și va veni echipajul, e pe drum.
Bine.
Da, lăsați telefonul liber, că dacă stăm în telefon de discuție, echipajul nu poate să vorbească cu dumneavoastră.
Bine,
M-ați înțeles,
bine,
da?
bine, da.
Bine.
Bună ziua.
These were the last times when Alexandra was ever heard. Unfortunately, the address that Alexandra named was not the address where she was kept. Gheorghe walked into the room just at the time when Alexandria was putting the phone over. He found Alexandria untied in the bedroom and realized that he couldn't leave her alive.
He started hitting her severely. The main spots where he targeted were her head and torso. He grabbed her head and smashed it to the floor. After she was too weak to show any resistance, he simply grabbed her throat and strangled her to death. After killing her, he moved the dead body into the garden of his property. The body was placed into the barrel and burnt.
19 hours. Only 19 hours after the murder, the police arrived at Gheorghe's house. Even after arriving at his property, they were reluctant to enter there, vindicating it with the fact that they didn't have a search warrant.
Gheorghe Dinca was finally arrested on July 26, 2019. The phone calls of Alexandra with the police were leaked to the social media by her uncle. He wanted the public to see the incompetence with which the police were working in Romania. Gheorghe Dinca was a 65-year-old retired mechanic who was living alone. He used to live in Italy with his family for a while, but after the injury he had to quit his job and return to his home country. His family stayed in Italy since he didn't want their life to be negatively influenced by the movement from one country to another. They had meetings several times but ended not quite well. Gheorghe, as a person who would solve any problem with violence, would hit his wife. She, in turn, didn't report to the police about the domestic violence. Had she reported on him, maybe Alexandra would be alive, but there is not only Alexandra who became the unfortunate victim of Gheorghe.
A couple of months before the murder of Alexandra Maceșanu, there was another girl from the same area who went missing. Her name was Luisa Meleco. She was an 18-year-old young lady who used to live with her grandparents in Radomir, another city in Romania not far from Caracal.
On the 14th of April 2019, Luisa headed to Caracal to get money that her mother living in London sent her. When she arrived in Caracal, she found out that the terminal was not operating. After calling her grandparents and mother and letting them know about the unlucky visit, she headed back. Since public transportation is not reliable in those areas, she had to use hitchhiking. Just then she was noticed by Gheorghe. His front seats of the car were filled with shopping bags.
I want to note that Gheorghe has modified his car so that the person who would sit in the back seat wouldn't be able to open doors or windows. So he placed those bags on front seats with the purpose to make Luisa sit in the back seat. Just like with Alexandra, everything started with a casual conversation. When he got to know that Luisa was not able to get money from her mother, he offered money to have sex with him. He pulled the car over, slipped to the back of his car, and started molesting Luisa. Luisa was pleading, asking, screaming, and doing everything to save her life. After that, he just brought Luisa to his house. When moving through the gate in his car, Gheorghe was met by his neighbor Stefan. Of course, Gheorghe panicked but tried to stay calm. Exactly at that time, Stefan heard some noises from Gheorghe's car. Luisa was pleading with the stranger for help, but he never even tried to help her. Gheorghe just explained that Luisa was a woman who was supposed to have sex with him. Stefan seemed satisfied with the explanation and just continued minding his own business. Then a new ingenious idea arose in the head of Gheorghe. He dragged Luisa to the bedroom, tied her, and went looking for Stefan. He wanted Stefan to be involved in the sexual assault of the young lady so that Stefan would keep his mouth shut. Once Gheorghe finished his business with Luisa, he called and welcomed Stefan in so that the latter could play with Luisa too. But by that time they both returned, Luisa had passed out. She woke up after they started making noise. Both men took advantage of her and started raping her.
The next day, Luisa started asking and begging him to release her. Instead, Gheorghe just repeated absolutely everything that he would repeat to his next victim. Gheorghe asked for Luisa's grandparents' phone number and said that he would call them later.
While running errands in the city, he called Luisa's grandparents and promptly notified them that Luisa was fine and didn't want to return home. Of course, her grandparents were panicking since the day she went missing. They were calling all their relatives and people they knew looking for Luisa. After receiving the phone call from Gheorghe, her grandparents reported to the police, but the police refused to start the search, saying she probably ran away with her boyfriend.
Meanwhile, Gheorghe continued doing all those nasty things with Luisa. She was crying, and this irritated Gheorghe so much that one time he beat her to death. He was so furious that he was beating her with his clenched fists to her head and her chest until he heard how her chest bones cracked and broke.
After removing all her belongings from her, he moved her body to the yard and placed it into the barrel. As you already presumed, he just burned the body till there was nothing left of her. He disposed of her ashes in the forest and continued living his normal life till he found Alexandra in July.
This horrifying case shocked the entire population of Romania. People were shocked by the incompetence and indifference of police. This led to numerous protests in the capital city of Bucharest. The tension between the general public and the police escalated very quickly. People would gather and leave child shoes in front of the Romanian Interior Ministry headquarters as a way of portraying the inadequacy of the police.
Meanwhile, during his trial, Gheorghe Dinca confessed to the murder of 2 girls and took all the responsibility for their deaths. He said that I must be punished for what I did. Even though he took the responsibility, he couldn't explain why he would commit these horrifying crimes. The only body parts that were found in a barrel that was in Gheorghe's yard belonged to Alexandra. Luisa's remains were not found.
Gheorghe Dinca was obsessed with the unhealthy idea of sex. He was enjoying violence and his manhood. He would do absolutely everything to satisfy his sexual pleasures. During his trial, Gheorghe Dinca was charged with not only murder, but also with other criminal offenses, including kidnapping people, rape of minors, desecration of corpses, and many others. Finally, he was sentenced to 30 years in jail. His neighbor Stefan was also charged with the rape of Luisa Milenko. Alright everyone, this is pretty much everything I wanted to share with you this time. What do you think of Gheorghe Dinca? If you want to share your own opinion on his black deeds, feel free to leave your comments in the comment section below. If you like this video, please click the like button and don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you won't miss any more videos. If possible, share this video with people you know so more people will be aware of this story as well. And as always, take care of yourselves and see you next time.